You guys know what time it is. The block sanding party. Why ain't you here? Pinholes, a couple little light low spots. Block sanding my butt off today. Just a couple pinholes over here. This is a low spot. 98% of that stuff's gonna get sanded off for the people who hate the red glazing putty. I haven't had a problem with it, but I keep hearing it every time I post a video using it. Two-part stuff is supposed to be a little better, but it's also way more expensive. Since we're not heading to the Riddler, the red putty's gonna do. I'm gonna let it cure all week. Block sand that next week. Low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot. No guide coat needed at this point. I can see them pretty easily. The light gray's been sanded, the dark gray hasn't. So I figured I'd bring you in for the show. Everybody loves a block sanding party. It's gonna be the most exciting content ever on YouTube. 62 C10, patina to paint. Let's get started. What I'm doing is, as I sand, this is a slight high spot. I'm not going to worry about that. Once it touches, I stop. So technically it's not a high spot because it's been sanded flat. As soon as it starts to show, everything else has been sanded, so we're good. I want to take off the high build as much as I need, get everything nice and purdy. There's a little bit of a low there. I think that'll block out the rest of the way because this hasn't been sanded down in much. We're on the edge. So I'm filling the low spots as I see them. What happens is it stays dark gray, although this hasn't been sanded enough yet, but it stays dark gray and you can feel with your hand, even with the gloves, when you go over, it's silky smooth, nice and buttery, and then you hit a spot where you're like, what? You know it's a low spot. I just put a little bit of that red putty in there and move on. As I find them, I fix them. If you try to remember them and go back, guess what happens? You don't remember them. Next thing you know, you're laying your paint and you're like, uh-oh, we don't want any of that. I was gonna sand it with 400 on the DA. That's what I sanded the roof with because the roof's in really nice shape, doesn't need any body work. I put a real light coating of high build on it just in case there was some scratches. And I hit that with 400. Man, it does not sand. It's almost like you're polishing the primer because I laid 3 coats on here, a medium wet coat and 2 heavy coats, almost a gallon of high build on the truck. Heavier in the spots I knew were trouble, lighter in the spots I knew weren't trouble because I was afraid of running out of it actually. You can see we're just getting through to the under layers. We don't want to sand this anymore, but it's in good shape. Might be the slightest low here. I can't feel anything, so I'm going to leave it. I stopped sanding there. I might wet it with some primer sealer and see what it looks like. I think I am going to primer seal this truck. You do that right before you paint. You have everything all masked off, ready for paint in the paint booth. You do 1 coat of medium wet primer sealer with a really slow reducer and slightly over reduced. It makes the entire truck have 1 shade of color, like for stuff like this. Sometimes that'll show through the base coat. I don't think it will with red. Even the tan beige color is pretty forgiving in that regard, but we're still gonna do it, I think. It'll be a last minute decision, but I'm sanding with 180. At 400, like I said, wasn't even making a dent in this stuff where I have it heavy. So we'll do 180. Then I'll go over real quick with the 400 in areas where I think the 180 is a little heavy. But with using primer sealer, it's gonna let me get away with about 220 or so. So that's as fine as I really need to go if I'm laying down primer sealer and using a solid color, not metallic or pearl or anything like that. So there you are, you're caught up. Let's do some more sanding because we're having so much fun at this point already. Why not carry on? It's just a very tedious job. It takes a lot of patience, and I'm pretty patient, but I've been burned before by being rushed. You know, people are, especially if you're helping somebody out, they're like, hey, how much longer? How much more is it going to cost? What are you going to charge me? Can you get it done quicker? And you get it done quicker, and then they're not happy with the result. That happens too. Same thing when you're working on your own stuff. You get it done quicker, you're not happy with the result. So you always want to be patient. That's why some cars are in body shops for 3 years. The shop's taking as much work as it can, trying to make a living. Probably too much work. If you're not overextended, you're probably not paying your bills either way. You get the idea. It takes forever. It takes a lot of patience. I'm going to keep after it. Try to get the hood. I'd like to get the front end done today, but it's Super Bowl Sunday, so we got 3 hours left before we're heading out, no matter where we're at. Mean scooter on the sidewalk, bro. Fast and Furious. The only time sanding by hand like this is okay to me, in my humble experience, is around a corner like this. There's no sanding block that's going to fit there, and you're not trying to get waves out on a compound corner like this. There's a turn here, and then a radius here, and then a radius back, and then this has a slight radius to it. You can have 7,241 sanding blocks, and you're going to need another one to do this. So I just use these sanding blocks. Being careful, you don't want to go like this too much, because then from certain directions you might see lines in the paint, but it's really nitpicky. I mean, Chip Foose would be like, oh my God, what are you doing? For 99.9% of the cars in the world, it doesn't matter. You just want to get your primer smooth, get all these little nibs out of the primer that are here. There's a little one here. So I'm just trying to smooth it out on this radius, and then I'll go back to the block. I did this corner by hand. You're not trying to get waves out of a corner, out of a compound curve, right? So no harm, no foul. Some people might have a block and go, haven't you seen my stupendous set of specialty sanding blocks? They're only $399. We're not doing any of that. So, and honestly, the last time this car was painted, there was body filler hanging down here and stuff I found in here. I cleaned all that up, so this truck's probably going to be as nice or nicer than it was in 1962 when we're done. Because back then, the factory paint wasn't very perfect, actually, and it was lacquer. So never had a really great shine to it, things like that. It's going to be nice. I don't know if I'm convincing you or me, but this is an awful lot of work, so I'm probably trying to convince me. These corners, I sand with the block, and then I sand with a block, and then I'll use my paper by hand just to knock the edge down and smooth the primer out as gently as I can, without trying to alter how sharp or dull that body line might be. If you're doing like a ton of cars, you're doing this professionally, you're probably going over all the big flat panels with a 3-foot long block, and then you're going to the next smallest block for the slightly smaller sections, and then you're going to a radius block for the radius sections. I mean, that's the best way to do it. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. You know, it's just starting to touch through here. Anywhere that I've gone through the metal, I got to put a little tiny splash of etching primer, and we're just going to send it. It's looking pretty good, honestly. The truck's pretty straight compared to how it was, so I'm pretty happy with it. But we got a lot more block sanding to do. Got a lot done today. We're not done with the video, we're just done with today. I basically got around the windshield, the cowl, both front fenders, and the hood, as well as the grill's about 99%. touched through to metal in a few places. The primer must have been a little lighter on the grill. I think I was worried about painting my condenser. And I hate when you look in the grill and the condenser and the radiator sport are body color. So I must have sprayed a little light. I went through in a couple spots on the grill. But no big deal, a little etching primer on the metal. That's what's the black. It's called dark gray, but it looks black. So we got some spots. I took all the tape off. That tape, I bought really good 3M tape, by the way. Just a word of caution if you're doing your own project. Oh, what a mask I was supposed to wear today. Wondered where it was. I bought good 3M tape, which is a little pricey. And it's made for automotive refinish masking. It was on there 2 weeks and I had a hard time getting it off. I just spent almost an hour trying to get the tape off. And you can see here where I left the tape on even longer than 2 weeks by mistake. And I can't get this off. I gotta figure out how to get this off of rubber. Anybody know? There's a couple spots over here and just this corner mostly. I left masking tape on it while I worked in the area. I left it on about a month. So we got some red to block out and we gotta do the doors and the bed. So I hit this with 400. You can see it barely touches it. Hardly does anything to it. So it worked for the roof, but I'll have to go around the back window area again. We'll pick it up another day. We got a little bit of the red stuff sanded. You can see where we just left it only in the imperfections. Low spots, stuff like that. Low spot. This one was still a low spot after sanding it. This smoothed out nice. This was still low, so I had to put another application on there, but now we're really cooking. Sanded all around the door frames. Started sanding some of this. These are high spots, really. We're gonna leave that. I'm not gonna mess it up. I'm pretty happy with where it's gonna end up. Some low spots on the back of the cab and all. Now it's really just the doors and the bed. You can see how straight this thing is now. It's gonna be perfect. Look out, Riddler Award. It's been kind of slow today, so I've been working on the project truck video number 8. Got a lot of more little scratches and chips and pinholes fixed. I keep finding more and going over them. I blocked out my passenger door now. Touched up the metal just like I've been doing. This is a slight low spot and a slight low spot. You can almost see where it didn't sand the primer. So what I like to do is, if I can't tell where it is, I'll circle it with pencil. Then you want to scuff up wherever it didn't touch. Make sure you got a good mechanical bite that way. See, these are lows too, but that's where the trim goes, no big deal. This one's a little bit large, but I've got a little more room I can block sand here. Bunch of little pinholes and like just divots in the Bondo on the bottom edge and stuff. Probably not even ever going to see it, but I figure while I'm in there. Found another little divot here. I'm even fixing down in front of the cab where we're probably not going to see, but just in case. It's one of those things, once I start going, I'm like, oh, I can do some more. Got this door blocked out now, and you can see how uneven that air board is. What I sanded all his bodywork with, if you remember. And I did a kind of a quick block, but not like it is with the high build on it. The high build, you're going over it a lot finer, looking for all them scratches, following all your different direction techniques so that you don't do too much sanding in any one direction. And it shows all these low spots. Now this is perfectly flat now. Sure don't look too pretty though, but it'll be okay. Very slight low, where the primer just stayed a tiny bit rough. Probably wouldn't even notice it, but we might as well while we're in here. Found another little imperfection right here. A couple in the cab. Still going. So we got this door. The red scratch filler stuff is basically sanded very well. You can see what you leave behind. Basically nothing. A tiny bit of an imperfection in the edge of the door. Tiny bit of a low spot again. This one's good. So there was a little ding right on the crease. Sunday we're going to start attacking the bed. I am going to have to spray a direct to metal epoxy sealer before the base coat's going to go on, I think. I'm almost tempted to do a whole nother round of high build, but I don't want to get, you guys know. Where are you going to draw the line? You got to draw the line somewhere. I have found a couple more imperfections here. I'm going to let that set up a couple of days when I come back, work on the bed, hit this red stuff in the next part of the video. All right, here we are back at it again. Same video, new day. We are fixing to start doing the bed. I do want to hit these spots of red. Oh, look at the birds got me. You sons of guns. I'm standing on the roof and pooping down the side of the truck. 2 of them. You turkeys. Don't worry, we'll clean it up. I'm going to start on the side in the shade and protect my shiny skull. We don't want the chrome dome getting too much sun. I do like a little sun though, just not tons. Anyway, back to the truck. So I'll block sand in this bed. I'm gonna hit these real quick. We'll come back. This is 400 too, which I mentioned earlier is a little too fine for this stage, but now that I've got the front end blocked out with 220, I can go over with 400, make sure it's ready for the primer sealer, because I'm hoping to get it in my spray tent when I set it up. Obviously I'm going to wash it really good with detergent and water, what do you want to call it, dish soap, because it's real good with stripping wax and grease. Doesn't leave any residue. You got to rinse it really well, then mask it all off, wipe it down with wax and grease, remove it one more time, primer sealer, base coat, clear coat, all on the same day, if the old man can hang. We'll see. I do see some dust and stuff. No big deal. We'll blow all that off of there. All right, now I want to reiterate too, I'm not wearing a mask. One, I like to talk to you guys. You won't be able to hear me. I don't do it professionally. I do have a fan set up to help blow anything away from me while I work, for all those reasons I mentioned. If you're doing an enclosed space like a garage, you have to wear a mask. I mean, this stuff's not good for you. At your own discretion. I'm not your daddy. I just want you to know, don't necessarily do what I do. There's several reasons I'm not wearing one. I normally would. If I know I'm going to be in a cloud of dust, I'll wear one. When I paint the truck, I'll be wearing one. So, some people bring it up once in a while. That's why I'm going to reiterate it. All I'm doing now is busting out the 400 on the DA, which is really fine. It's almost like polishing. But I can see scratches that are visible that I want to get out. I don't want to make sealers only good down to like 320 scratches, so these are 220. Basically, for those of you who don't have a lot of bodywork experience, the lower the number, the coarser and more aggressive the grit is, and the more time you save while you're sanding. You can get big areas of body filler flat with 40 or 60 grit, even 36. But normally, once you get anywhere close, then you switch to like 80 or so, and you get everything shaped really nice. Then you start with your primers and stuff, and you get a little finer. You go to 120, 180, depending on how rough it is, 220, and 320 when you're getting really close, and then 400 for a single an opaque color. If you have a solid color without metallics, 400 is good. If you're going with metallics and candies and stuff, you need to go to at least 600 on the finish. The scratches, and all you're doing is you need to get to that 400 to 600, but you do it in stages to save time. If you try skipping a couple of grits to save money, you can do it, but it takes way more time. And this is where I'm about ready to put guide coat. Anywhere I'm not sure if I'm seeing scratches, I'll put some guide coat, and we haven't even done that yet, but we're gonna. The way I use guide coat is for anything I have doubts about. If I'm not pretty sure. And we'll show you some of that too here. This is so fine, and it's Amazon sandpaper. You see how the fan's blowing it right away from me? That's also why I'm wearing a mic. Now anywhere I see metal, like here, I'm gonna have to put some of this etching primer. I'm not sure if I mentioned in this video or the previous video, anywhere the black spots are, it was bare metal. But the sealer I'm using is direct to metal. It's called epoxy primer sealer. You just reduce it a little bit more to use it as a sealer right before you paint. And it can go on bare metal. But I use the etching stuff because I have a couple spray cans of U-Paul etching primer, which I still think is probably a little better. I'm no chemist. And I don't have that much experience, so everything I say, take with a grain of salt. I can only tell you my limited experience, how things have gone. So I'll use the DTM where I can and while I can. But since I have decided to use a primer sealer, there's going to be molding here, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Since I have decided to use a primer sealer, it's not as critical if you have one that's direct to metal. I'm going to mostly do it now at this stage so I don't get any rust while the process is happening outside. I do have the interface pad on here, so it's got a lot of give to it for the curve. I already blocked this all out. Now I'm just getting rid of scratches. Alright. I'm going to change this pad, I think. Showing some wear on the edges. I have 40 sheets of it, so this is like number 2. So we got plenty of sandpaper. Use it the way I know to change a pad. It's kind of a feel thing. All of a sudden, you're like, man, it's taking a lot of work to get these scratches. And you know the sandpaper is probably worn out. You go to the next, you go to a new sheet. This red stuff's 220. The green stuff that I was using earlier is 180. That's for when I know something's really nasty. I just want to cut it down. And as soon as it starts looking kind of straight, I go to this little 220 pad. Keep changing directions. 10 to 4, 8 to 2. And if you're doing a really long area, then you go longer on your block and use a bigger block. But this is a 4-inch area, no big deal. Camera's probably not going to zoom in that good. Let me get you a little closer. You can see where everything's starting to feather nice, but it's still not touching here. So I'm hoping this application will be enough. Might need a tiny bit more right in the center. I sand most of the stuff off. In a low spot, it'll look like there's more, but it's literally 0.010 of an inch deep. The reason I put this here is because the primer stayed rough when I blocked this area. I think that's about it. My hands are already dusty, so wear gloves if your hands are, like if you washed them a couple hours ago, put on some gloves, or go wash them with dish soap and water, like I did about half an hour ago. If it was cooler out, I would just put some gloves on, not worry about washing my hands. You have to keep in mind too, when you wear gloves while you work, if you touch something that you shouldn't with the gloves and then go back to the body work, same as not wearing gloves. So you gotta be mindful of that too. Some people feel like they're protected because they have gloves on. This was a ding right on this body line. you get the idea. I'm gonna go at it. We're gonna start on the bed here in a second. We'll come back when I'm getting that bed halfway done or so. All right, I got my wax and grease remover in a container. So it's a little quicker. The little plastic spray bottles don't like the solvent. I got this block from the seam up. It's coming out pretty good. There's a couple of spots you can see here where it's just starting to touch, but it hasn't got all the primer yet. This is better than it looks. It's actually flat. This is not. These are the little things I'm looking for. Missing here and here. A couple of little. This is going to get a little red putty. A little red putty. Because as soon as it starts touching, I don't want to go any further down. I know it's pretty flat. Now I'm just fixing these little tiny lows. Some of this stuff I'm not going to make perfect. It's a truck, so I'm not. You guys know my standards is going to be 5 feet. I want it to look like some effort was put in, but I'm not going to get ridiculous and have to be paranoid every time I drive the truck. You guys remember when I sprayed this thing, I put like 2 coats. I put a medium wet and I put 2 wet coats of primer. This truck got a ton of high build primer. So the 180 is taking it down. As soon as it starts to get flat, I go to 220. And I'm getting it pretty good with that. So, give you an idea. I probably showed you earlier in the video, but just in case. Fast and Furious BMW guy, 3 Series guy. Now since I mostly blocked this out by hand before, this is going to be pretty decent. You guys saw this truck when I first got it. It had like roofing tin for wheel wells, and the wheel wells were sticking out, and I cuddled this out and changed them sections and stuff. But we got it pretty straight in earlier videos, and we're coming right along. I think this is going to block out pretty well. I'm trying not to jinx myself and get too overconfident, but we'll see. You can get a good idea where we're at. Just trying to knock down the high build primer. Even 180 is a finer surface than how I had this high build, because I put it on so heavy and thick. I didn't want to reduce it too much, because then it won't be high build. It becomes like more like a sealer if you put more reducer in it. We got a few things going on here. A couple little pinholes. They're all little pinholes. That's a tiny bit of a low right there, which I think was going to peak above the molding. A couple little pinholes I showed you earlier. I also found a crease here. There's 2 little creases. I think I mentioned in an earlier video. And a little bit of a low that's going to show under the molding. Just in case I didn't want to do this much work and leave one little divot that would bother me later. But we're coming along. This whole quarter panel is just about done. Let that filler set up. I'll start on the other side, and we'll come back when that side looks about like this. We'll go over whatever we found on that one. Now this side here, there's a lot. If you remember, if you're watching the videos on this truck a while, this was really rusted and really pitted. And even though I laid that high build on there pretty heavy, still didn't fill some of the really bad sections, so that's what the red's for. When I sand it off, it'll look like a bunch of red dots. I got this tail light panel sanded. Now we're doing this tail light panel. I look up and I see smoke. So we're in a very dry winter. I think they said the driest in 25 years. I remember I don't know, maybe it was about that 25 years ago. They actually canceled that Daytona 500 and stuff because of brush fires. And I just told my wife yesterday, I said, we're gonna start getting brush fires if we don't get some rain. And here we are. We got quite a bit of imperfections here. You can see them right here. Yeah, it's gonna be a little more of the same. This panel is actually pretty good because I did quite a bit of body work on it when I took the tailgate chains off and stuff. So just like the tailgate itself should be pretty decent. I probably shouldn't have said it, but and now you caught up. Everything's coming along, going as expected. And there's a little low spot here. I really probably should do some more body work. I just don't want to. You can see this metal here. It's a little bit of a high. So when I'm done, it'll have a slight little dip to it because that's where the stake pocket brace is, I guess. So it'll have a slight angle change where that metal divot is. But I'm trying to stop myself from making this take another 3 years worth of body work. So this was a lot higher than I expected too. What I did there is I just sanded it until the primer got pretty smooth. It's just a slight bit of roughness here, but not much. Nothing to worry about. Now you're caught up. That fire is still going strong, unfortunately. I got the tailgate mostly sanded here. Boy, it's a lot of fun getting in them letters. But I figured out something kind of cool. This little sanding block I got, Volsive, in this little kit, if you saw that kit. It actually fits pretty well in the letters like this. I just went around doing my thing, trying to get the corners. Lots and lots and lots of patience. Took like an hour to do the tailgate, basically. And I used this is a finer paper, like 220, 240, 220, but I've worn it out on stuff, so it's not as aggressive. So it might behave similar to 240. If you feel it, the primer feels like literally like paint. Super smooth. That's how I know if I've missed any low spots. Like there's a tiniest little bit right here. I can feel the grain in the primer. You can see it actually here, but it's starting to go through. So I stopped. I'm going to put red in there. So I'm getting ready to wipe it all down so I can do the spot putty. Anytime you're going to put that stuff, you got to wipe down the dust and hit it with the wax and grease remover just like you're going to paint, because it's the only way stuff sticks. Keep in mind, if I was doing paint part of it, I'd have to be way more meticulous than that. I'll probably get 2 brand new microfiber towels like this and have one that's really wet and one that's not, and go around a lot slower and more meticulously, making sure there's no dust or anything nasty that's going to happen. Kind of hard to explain that process, but you really have to be clean. You spend way more time sanding and doing body work and cleaning than the actual paint part. The paint part, most of the time, it takes 20 minutes to spray each coat roughly, and most of the time is waiting for it to set up between coats, which is depending on the material, 10, 15, 30 minutes. You spend more time letting paint dry than you do the paint. But everyone wants to get to that paint part because that seems like the fun, because it's going to look pretty when you're done. But the cleaning, oh my goodness gracious, you can't be clean enough. And I'll blow it out with air and go over this with the nasty rags. And the closer we get, the more important these rags get, and the more frequently I'll change them out. When you get to where you're really at the end, you're going to be trying to go in one direction. You don't want to smear any dust or anything you might have on the rag around. You just want to wipe it off. As soon as the rag looks discolored like this, I did the bottom of the tailgate last because there's a ton of dust and dirt under there. Now this rag is going to get demoted to some other project, but just keep that in mind. Cleanliness is very important. So are fire trucks. She looks almost like some kind of tricolor collie zebra truck thing or something. Metal has the etching primer. Lows and pinholes have red spot putty. The bed is done one day, 6 hours so far. Probably take me an hour or two to sand the red. And then we are really close. I think the amount of red putty I've put on here. I think I'm gonna have to put another coat of high build on it. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. Maybe someone who does this for a living. I just do it for a hobby. I'm tempted to finish sanding all this, get it in my little paint tent, do a coat of primer sealer, and paint. But part of me is also saying do one more coat of high build and then hit it with the 400 on the DA. So haven't really decided. I haven't locked that in. I'll go by what you guys say in the comments. I'm going to finish this red spot putty sanding, and that'll be when this video comes to an end. Project part number 8, 9, and 10. 9's probably going to be setting up the paint tent, showing you what I'm going to do for that. I'm going to have to totally improvise, fly off the cuff. Never done it before. I've always either painted in the garage, painted outside, and just let the bugs have at it. I want this one to come out a little nicer, so I bought a tent, $300 on Temu. And it's pretty big, like 16 by 26 or 13 by 26. So you have plenty of room for the truck and a work table. And then I'm going to bring my clean air hose from home and run it on an extension out to the tent. I'm going to set the tent up right there, I believe, in case I don't get it done on Sunday. I don't want to have it on a lift, blocking a lift or anything at work. It's not fair to the shop. Plus I might get in trouble. We come back, I'm going to have all this red stuff sanded. We'll show you what the whole truck looks like when it's ready, either for another coat of high build or primer sealer. Went ahead and decided to run some seam sealer down this ugly looking crease as a refresher. Show you what this side looks like. I can't stop myself. You see how ugly it is. So plus I'm worried about water getting trapped in there a little, but I think with it painted it wouldn't matter. It would just look ugly. So I've been the seam sealer I had left from touching up my roof. I had left over, squeezed it out on a container, put it on like Bondo, and wiping it clean with wax and grease remover. Acetone you can use, all kinds of things, but kind of can't have one hand holding the camera. Pretty time consuming, you get the idea. A little aggressive, huh? Temptation is to make it perfect as you go. The problem is the thinner that material is, the faster it dries. So you just got to get the really thin stuff off and come back and keep cleaning it up till it looks how you want. Some might say this isn't made for that, but it's a seam, and this is a seam sealer. I'm sealing a seam, that's what I'm saying. The problem is when you lift it up, you gotta hope you can match the pressure again when you go back down. Well, you guys are looking a little discharged and tired. I have to put you on charge. I'm going to start masking this thing off. We're going to do one more coat of high build, I decided. Then I can DA the whole truck with 400 to flat spots. Go around the curves by hand, just like the cab ends and wheel wells by hand. This thing's ready for paint after that. Alright guys. Got that last of the red settled, sanded, both. Got the seam sealer in the gap. Got the last coat of high build primer on the truck, and boy is it looking good. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying it's a lot of work, and so far, so good. It's actually a lot better than I thought I was gonna go. But every time I come across something I know I can fix, I'm like, I have a hard time moving on knowing I could fix it. But anyway, here it is. All we got to do now to basically get this painted is to go over with the DA with 400, all the smooth areas. I'll use the DA pads by hand and no curves and any of that stuff, kind of like we've been doing. But the paper's a lot finer, and we're going to use guide coat now to make sure, like I noticed when I was spraying, a couple little tiny little divots here, the tiniest little pinholes. Might as well fix them. We've gone this far, right? It's all one color again. Looking pretty good. It's your boy, Trigger Man. I don't know if you ever watched that guy's videos, but he's a good painter. I actually learned a lot watching his videos. I have lots of experience painting as an amateur who has no idea what they're doing and kind of fumbles through, which might be obvious to anyone who knows how to paint. I'm no professional painter. I did a lot of airbrushing and things like that. I've always been kind of artistic since I was a kid. Matter of fact, art was my major. But anyway, not a professional painter. Watching Trigger Man and Paint Society, a lot of those guys teach a lot of stuff that's really helpful. So thanks to those guys. We're not there yet, but we're getting really close now. A couple of days, I'm thinking 2 more Sundays or so of, I'll put guide coat on it after it sets up really well. I just finished painting it about 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. Cleaned my spray gun, put it away, and grabbed you guys from Charger. I didn't want to show you painting it again. I hope nobody really wanted to see. I've showed it already a couple of times, but we'll obviously show you when the actual paint goes on. This is just the last bit of high build primer I had in my gallon can. Whole gallon's on the truck now, so I'm just taking it in. So, all right, part 8 is coming to a close. Thanks for watching, guys. 8, we got 2 more to go. The last one is going to be as I finish up the DA sanding with the guide coat. I'll show you some of that, and then we'll be setting up a tent. Getting it in the tent, I'll show you what I'm going to build for my ventilation system. You need an inlet and an outlet and some fans. If you use pusher fans, they don't have to be explosion proof. If you use puller fans, you're supposed to use explosion proof fans. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that, because those fans are really expensive. I might just make a pusher paint booth, and you put a bunch of filters on the other end so you have a cross draft kind of thing. I got a big tent, I think I told you, 13 by 26, should be plenty. So thanks for watching, guys. Look forward to seeing you in part 9, or my day in the shop videos, which is really my specialty. The project truck is just something I have a ton of fun with. And even as an amateur, I either want to, 1, teach someone who has no idea what they're doing and is interested in trying, or 2, motivate you to get off the couch or get out in the garage and work on your project, because I'm at probably 900 hours of labor in this truck so far. Hope that motivates you. Torque the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're new. More than anything, I hope I see you in another video, because you're awesome.